Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report, first podcast to bring you the local fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. I'm Joe By. I'm sitting here with Butch Theory. Butch, we had a little bit of an ugly event happen this week. I think a number of our iTunes subscribers got a podcast release on Monday about deer baiting. And you might ask yourself, what does deer baiting have to do with Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report? And the answer to that is nothing. It has absolutely nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I have another podcast called the Hunting Land Podcast where we talk about hunting and everything related to landowners and wannabe landowners. And, you know, my profession as a land agent, I sell land in addition to doing media. And we uploaded the podcast to the wrong account. So, guys, sorry if you turned that on. If you listened, a lot of you did. We appreciate the listens and hope you enjoyed it. But check us out over on the Hunting Land Podcast if you liked what you heard. What's up, man? What's up, Butch? How'd your weekend go, buddy?
It was good, man. Had a lot of good boat rides, a lot of good sunsets. Pepper had a good time. She had some friends over.
That's what I usually say whenever I hadn't caught any fish.
Man, I have not even. I didn't even bring a rod. I ain't even gonna lie. I did not want to fish.
That's what I say too, man. I mean, that's how I always play it. Like, I just really enjoyed that boat ride. It was nice.
Well, that's because you're not good at fishing. I just like boat riding.
It's fair.
Yep. We had a good time, man. Had some friends over. Had some friends in from out of town. Got to hang out with them and spend some good time with them. And good fellowship. Good food. Man, I smoked that. You see that pork loin I smoked? Psh. Put that sucker on the green egg. I did a big bacon blanket. Man, stuffed it with cream cheese and diced poblano peppers. Ooh,
Chef Butch.
Yeah, man.
Chef Butch. Man, I have a bacon blanket. That sounds like my dreams come true.
Mm-hmm. It really was. I'll have to do that for you guys one time whenever you come visit.
I feel like you owe me some money or something. Didn't we make a bet last week?
I don't think there was any money involved, but you did call that there was going to be some bluefin caught soon, and it was 2 of them, man.
How would you like to catch a 700-plus pound fish and come in second?
That's tough. It's really tough. I would be very disappointed, but I guess that just sucks. Really, I can't justify that very much.
Yeah, well, the Blue Water Billfish tournament season started off with a bang in the Gulf of Mexico.
Orange Beach Billfish Classic, lots of marlin caught.
Butch, who's bringing us the show this week?
We're going to have a special guest on the show today. Going to do something a little different. We're going to have Mr. Ron Davis with Geico talk to us a little bit. How you doing today, Mr. Ron?
Doing pretty good, and thank you and Joe for having me on today. It's a really great show. I listen to you guys every week, and I'm born and raised here on the coast, and spend a lot of time on boats, but I pick something up every week. So it's a great job you guys are doing.
That's great, man. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate you. You've been with us since day one, and continue to bring this podcast to our listeners free each week, so we certainly appreciate that.
I'm glad I can be part of it. It's something that I have a passion for, and it's just, when you like doing it, it makes it that much better.
Well, Ron, we talk about you a lot on here in the commercial spots with regards to, on the water services. Because, I think Geico's done an excellent job of branding themselves as an insurance company. I mean, if you think insurance, you think Geico. But I don't always think of on the water stuff. So tell me a little bit about your office and what you guys offer and maybe how that differs or how that adds to some of the other lines of insurance you offer.
Sure. Well, most people think Geico. They think of you call an 800 number or you go online and you get a policy, and everybody knows Geico insures automobiles. But we do a lot of other things too. We do the homeowners, we do the renter's insurance. We also do boat coverage. And Geico has partnered up, or actually I think they bought out Boat US and Seaworthy Insurance Company. And we offer a full line of boat coverage. We have great rates, and we're the local office that serves Southwest Alabama.
I really like that you can bundle, your towing and your gas delivery and all that kind of stuff with the rest of your insurance. I know that creates some savings when you do it.
Heck, even with your homeowners, right?
Yeah.
That's right. The more products you bundle together, then the greater the savings are. The more products, the bigger the discounts.
Well, Ron, like Butch said, we definitely appreciate you being on, but if you come on here, you got to kind of put your feet in the flames. When we bring our fishing guides on here, we always ask them for a tip that relates to what they do. And I know you spend a lot of time on the water yourself. So give me a safety tip for the week as we get into this fishing report.
Well, that's a good point. The weather's getting nice, and everybody's wanting to get the boats out and get them in the water. But just take a few minutes, kind of some safety reminders and courtesy reminders. You're ready to get that boat in the water, make sure the plug's in it before you put it in. We've all done it. I know I've done it. Put it in, and you go, oh, my goodness, did I put the plug in? And every year we get 1 or 2 boats that are sunk because plugs weren't put in. When you're at the ramps, they're getting crowded this time of the year. So make sure you're ready when you get there. Have your bow line, your stern line at hand. Make sure that it's not all fouled up so that when the boat comes off the trailer, you can control it. It doesn't get away from you and bang into other people's boats because there's a lot of traffic this time of the year, people getting their boats in the water. And a biggie my dad used to always tell me, son, start your engine before you throw your bow line and your stern line off. I've seen people that they get on the boats and they're ready to get out there, and the first thing you know, the lines are cut loose, the boat's drifting off. Captain goes to the helm to start the motor, the battery switch is off, or the safety lanyard's not connected.
Yep.
And in the 15, 20, 30 seconds that it takes to get that little issue solved, when you got some current or some wind, you're 15, 20 feet from the dock.
If you're lucky,
so it can make a difference.
Oh, yeah, that's a big difference.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about with that boat plug thing. It's never happened to me. But
I wish that I could say it's never happened to me.
Well, it's happened to me, and I guarantee you, if you've been putting boats in the water long enough, it's probably happened to you as well.
Absolutely. That's a great. I'm a very anxious person, and I think a lot of people get that way. Man, you get worked up, you get fired up. There's trucks backing up, there's boats cranking up. Just slow down. You are absolutely right. Just slow down a little bit and say, okay, checklist, bink, 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 and you're done with it.
Yep.
And just a few minutes of preparation can save you a lot of headache down the road.
Another thing is, if you're trailering that boat and you putting it in a boat launch, go over there and get out of the way a little bit and get yourself collected and get all your things and make sure you can kind of go through your list. Don't go through your list when you're
backing into the ramp.
When you're sitting at the top of the ramp and there's 3 other trucks behind you with boats looking at you going, all right, buddy, hurry up.
Right.
That's not the time to go looking for your bow line.
That's right.
No, it's not.
Do it, get it all ready, go up there, launch, get out, and get it done. Well, Ron, if folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do it?
Well, they can call us at 251-445-0053. They can go online, geico.com/Alabama-Mobile. Or shoot, you stop by the office or right here on Airport Boulevard. We'd love for you to come in and see that we are real people, not just a voice on the other end of a phone.
That's awesome. I like that. I'm a people person. I like to do face-to-face business. I appreciate you, Mr. Ron. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, well, thank you guys for doing a great job. It's a good show, and like I say, we get some good points every week.
Awesome. Thank you.
Butch, we couldn't make this thing happen without our sponsors, man.
No doubt. I like Mr. Ron a lot. He's a really cool guy.
We got a lot of great sponsors. We really do. Guys, if y'all are thinking about insurance and it's not going to hurt anything to get a quote, y'all give Ron a call.
That's right. Show him some support.
Butch, we're going to go onshore first. I called around. I talked to our guys. Isabel told me it's a bunch of hardheads in the surf. And what I really think is there's going to be a Pompano tournament during the Flora, Bama fishing rodeo. We're going to be in Orange Beach.
Tight-lipped on those guys?
I think he's sandbagging on us.
Oh,
I really do.
No.
I think I smelled fear, and I really do. I think he's scared I'm going to come over there and put a whooping on him.
I think that they heard we're going to be in their territory, and they're shaking a little bit like the fish.
Well, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out. But the good news is the onshore bite is pretty hot. Today we got Scott Kennedy with us. Scott spends most of his time in a Hobie kayak. Scott, welcome to the show. What's been going on for the guys that like to paddle?
What's up, guys? We are in the summer pattern finally. After kind of a weird spring, it is good to see the warmer temperatures. But there is plenty of speckled trout to be caught, plenty of redfish to be caught. and we're still picking up flounder too.
Nice.
But that right now, kind of what we've switched a lot of our focus on to is big speckled trout. Month of May is kind of the sweet time of the year for me, at least, for catching those big trout, and it is shined true again this year. The topwater trout bite in the morning has been fantastic. And, even on throughout the day as the sun gets up and stuff, we've still been having some great days catching, a lot of big trout.
Scott, you do, mostly kayak fishing. Last week we were talking with Bobby Abrascato, and he was saying really key in on some shell bottom. That's where those fish like to spawn. That's what you really ought to be keyed in on. Are you finding the same thing from the kayak? Are you spending most of your time in the marsh? What kind of what are you finding the fish are orienting to right now?
Yeah, shell bottom's always good to look for. A lot of what we've been looking for is kind of a big sandy flat, right? Right around marshy areas. That's been our key lately. We're just kind of focusing on the mouths of these, big rivers dumping into the bay and everything. And generally at the mouth of those rivers, you'll find some kind of just big, wide open, sandy flat. If you can find structure on that flat, whether it be, a patch of grass or any kind of, tree trunks or anything like that, that seems to be where a lot of our big fish are holding. And it's been an early morning bite. The biggest fish that we've been catching have been early in the morning. And that's, just kind of trying to find, the 2 to 3 foot flats early in the morning, big, just sandy bottoms and structure. That's been our key lately.
Sounds great. I like sandy bottoms, and I cannot lie. That's a good report, man. What about the redfish? What you been catching those on?
Redfish, we have been getting some mixed in with the trout on the top water in the morning. Outside of that, we've been fishing. You can't go wrong with your live shrimp or your live bull minnows. Notice with the bull minnows, they are a little easier to keep on the hook with all the pinfish and the croakers and everything showing up. Mm-hmm. But, if you're wanting to throw artificial, good old gulp shrimp, can't go wrong with a gulp shrimp. We're still throwing some chartreuse, curly tails, anything kind of real bright when we find some dirtier water. That bright, shiny chartreuse has been helpful, just kind of grabbing their attention. And then myself, I like the gulps. They have that little bit of scent to them. So once that flash kind of catches the redfish's eye, having something that they can, smell and key in on has been pretty key for us too.
Awesome, man. That's a great report.
And, you mentioned the flounder, Scott.
Yeah,
Where are you picking those fish up? Are you targeting them, or has it been incidental?
It's mostly been incidental. We're getting to the point where that accident has happened so much that we're trying to target them a little bit. And, when we're finding those, it's, same thing, just fishing the same exact spots we would be fishing for redfish, just bumping bottom real slow. And every now and then it'll feel like you're reeling in a Walmart sack, and then get it next to the boat and realize it's a nice flatfish. So those have been a welcome surprise that have been happening a little more frequently lately than we've been used to.
Absolutely. Talk about bycatch. That's the best bycatch you can possibly have.
Oh, man. Oh, no doubt about that.
All right, man. We're going to get that tip from you this week. And this week's onshore tip is brought to you by Coastal Conservation Association of Alabama. A great way to support coastal conservation projects like the Clyde Petite Flounder Hatchery. Is that how you say it? Petite? Or is it Petite?
Flounder? It's flounder, Butch.
Well, obviously, the Claude Petite Flounder Hatchery.
Sound it out.
In the University of South Alabama Cobia, I can say Cobia, that's easy enough. Tagging project is through the purchase of a distinctive CCA Alabama saltwater fishing license plate. Just head over to the Alabama Department of Revenue's distinctive license plate page at revenue.alabama.gov to get yours. What you think for a tip this week?
I'd say the best tip I can give you is don't hit that snooze button. Make sure you wake up early, beat the sun to the water, and throw top water. The earlier you get out there, the more fish you're going to catch.
Scott, talking about that a little bit, to really be there in that time that you're talking about, you're putting your kayak in the water. It's still pretty much dark, right? I mean, it's pretty much pitch black dark. Do you have the same regulations on a kayak with regards to navigational aids and whatnot? Do you have to have a the same types of lights or anything like that?
Being in a kayak, as long as we're not under power, as long as we hadn't strapped a trolling motor or any kind of engine to it, the only thing you're required is a 360-degree directional light, something that you can see for at least 2 miles. The only way we would have to get into the red and white light, or I'm sorry, red and green lights would be, of course, if you put an engine on your kayak.
Good to know. I think if I was in a kayak at dark, I would have one of those green flashing vests on if I were you.
Oh yeah, that's what I make sure I have. I have my 360 light, and I have plenty of bright flashlights with me so I can grab attention, because that's in a race between a 21-foot center console and a kayak, us kayakers are going to lose out every time.
That's right. I don't think Ron's going to insure your kayak if you don't. Not at all. How important is stealth right now when you're talking about those fish, biting early? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm generally thinking you're in shallower water than what a guy on a bay boat's in. So when you pull up on these flats, how stealthy do you have to be? Does your paddle making contact with the water matter? What do is it just you just really need to be able to bomb long casts? What do you do to make sure you're not spooking fish?
Yeah, kind of a combination of all those things. Yeah, the longer the cast you can make, the better. Putting plenty of distance between yourself and the fish always helps. And just like you said, don't make any noise at all. Like when I'm paddling up, I'll usually give myself a good burst of speed and then kind of almost, just coast into the spot. So the only noise I'm making would be the little bit of, water dripping off my kayak. But yeah, being stealthy is key for at least, for us, that seems to be the bigger trout. They've been around for a little while. They don't get that big without being, smart. And so they've become accustomed to, what they need to watch out for. And any kind of, loud banging on the side of your boat, engine noises. Even just an aerator pump can, kind of get them a little spooked. And so being stealthy is definitely key.
I can just see Scott on his kayak, wrapped in moleskin, bubble wrap all around all the points. He's got
moccasins on.
He's got his WD-40 in there. He's getting all the squeaks out.
Hey, got to do what you got to do. I've done some silly stuff to catch some fish. I can tell you that.
There you go. Whatever it takes.
That's right.
All right, folks. That's Scott Kennedy with Whistling Waters Kayak and Charter. Scott, thanks for the report, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Oh, yeah. See all the guys next time.
All right, Joe. That was a great report from our stealthy friend with paddle. We're going to head on down to the Mississippi Sound, Mobile Bay, see what old Captain Richard Rutland's been up to and where he's been. What's going on, Captain Blood?
Hey, man. How y'all doing?
Good, buddy. You've been sweating a little bit. It's been getting a little warmer. I think summer might be here.
It's definitely starting to feel that way. The fish are starting to act that way. It's definitely starting to get into a summertime kind of bite. This week is what I've been experiencing a little bit.
What's been happening? The speckled trout or what?
Yeah, right around this full moon, kind of pre-full moon, and on the full moon, I was doing really, really well in some shallow water, doing a lot of wade fishing, and pretty much having to do it all on artificial bait because the bait's been really, really hard to come by. I like throwing croakers a lot this time of year, tight lining croakers while I'm wading, but they've been hard to come by. So I've been having to do it all on artificial bait, and that's been great. But kind of hit a little bit of a brick wall on Sunday and Monday in shallow water, and had to change it up a little bit, and it really, really worked out well for me. I went slip corking out around the bay and around the rigs, and I caught one of the biggest fish of the year that I've caught out there on a live shrimp, which was really surprising. But man, there's a really good bite out in the bay right now.
How big is really big?
I measured 28 1/4 inches long, and on my boga grip was 7.5 pounds. And the kicker to that was the fish started croaking whenever I grabbed him. So it told me that was a male trout. The biggest male that ever caught to date was, I think, last year on the west end was about a 26-inch fish, probably in the 5.5 pound range. And this fish took it to a whole new level. Looked like a daggum dinosaur. He was so old
awesome.
looking, but it's pretty neat. And then not to mention that the next shrimp that I threw out there, I caught a 26-inch fish that was 6.5 pounds. So you could tell that was obviously a female, had that kind of red on her belly, you know, she's been doing that spawning activity, and see a big fat rose sack in there. So anywho, I put a tag in both of them and released them for another day.
It's interesting that you were able to tag them. I don't know as much about speckled trout biology as you and Bobby and Patrick seem to, but from what I understand, when you're catching big male trout like that, that means that's a really old school of trout, right? I mean, they kind of stay together as they age. Is that right? Is that what they think?
They do. Speckled trout, I'm pretty sure that they when they group up in a school, they stay with each other for pretty much their entire life and move around. That's why, you know, when you get on a bite, you kind of catch like-sized fish when you start to get on a bite. I think a really, really big male trout's like when you catch a 21 or a 22-inch male, and you hear one croak, and you're like, ooh, man. You're like, I'm always thinking, man, the queen bee is close. You know what I mean? There's a big female around somewhere. And sometimes you get that bite, sometimes you don't. But anywho, it's
So if you catch a 28-inch male trout, that means that there's a 40-inch female trout on that record. The world record is in Mobile Bay right now. Maybe a state record. You could get out there and get your state record, Richard.
Could be. There was a big fish floating around on social media this past week from somebody who caught a real big giant that claims it could have been a state record. He said he released it. I'm not real sure on all the specifics on that, but
I didn't see that.
That's floating around. Our buddy Tim String over there on the Eastern Shore caught a giant, and it's floating around on social media. It's a big fish.
I saw that fish. It was definitely had some length to it. It was a big speckled trout. Well, you mentioned the wading. That's pretty interesting as far as. Well, I guess let me step back. Let's step back to the rig fishing a little bit. Let's deep dive on the rig fishing some. I want to know just some of the basics on rigs. When you're out in a lot of those rigs in Mobile Bay have structure around them that's been placed there by different groups. Are you focused on that shell bottom around those rigs? Are you focused on being up current, down current? What do you feel like the fish, other than the rig itself, what do you feel like the fish orient?
Well, kind of all of them are different as far as how they fish, you know, and nothing replaces experience, obviously, just spending a ton of time out there and making moves and taking note of tide direction, whether it's flooding or whether it's falling. And so some of the rigs, yes, I'm honing in on that structure on the bottom, the limestone that they put out there. And then other platforms that don't have that structure, that stuff on the bottom, I'm always going to start up current and then work my way around. You know, I used to always drop an anchor. Now we have these trolling motors that hold us perfectly still. And that's really a really useful tool out there, because you can really fine tune your drift a lot of times, make a cast a long way away from the boat, and you get a bite, you can kind of slide over a little bit real easily. Or if you don't get a bite for a few minutes on the drift you're set up on, you crank up the engine, kind of bump over to the other side, slide down to the bottom. But I always start up current and start fishing back towards the rig and go from there, kind of fine tune things from there.
When you're talking about slip cork fishing, do you ever tightline anything around those rigs? And I mean, is there a reason to get away from the slip corks?
Man, I would say I tend to maybe be a little hard-headed and just really work that slip cork to the best of my ability, you know, adjusting my depth, seeing what they want as in regard to the slip cork. But I do know and hear of some other guides and fishermen that go out there who I have a friend who if you can't get him on a slip cork and he has some confidence that some fish are there, and he can't get them to bite, he'll get to a Carolina rig and fish them straight on the bottom and do real well. And then I have another friend who likes to do a lot of free lining, you know, just a split shot or two with a live shrimp and kind of throw it out there up current, feed it back, and almost kind of jig it a little bit, get some movement.
Just like you do for a sheephead.
Yep, almost exactly the same thing as the sheephead deal, and you're in you're in shallow enough water where, the current kind of sweeps it down, 15 or 20 feet past the boat, and it'll settle down on the bottom, and you pick it up, pick your rod tip up real high, 5 or 6 feet up, and
bounce it around a little bit.
The bottom.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And then you kind of almost working it like an artificial bait to an extent. So those are some good tactics. That's a good place to start.
Yeah, I like that. I've really never done much of that, man. I can only think of one time I've ever done the deep water trout slip cork fishing. That was whenever before Steve Lindsay retired, and we smashed him, man. That was fun.
Well, Butch, it sounds like from what you were saying earlier in the show, I mean, basically all you do is ride around and look at the sunset now, so it's not that hard to believe.
If I can help it, you're right. That is exactly what's going to happen.
Well, Richard, I want to ask you about my favorite fish, the triple tail. But before we get there, I just want y'all to consider the fact with all these GPS trolling motors that there's going to be an entire generation of fishermen that are going to grow up that are not going to get hollered at to have to pull up the anchor.
That's pretty sad.
You made me think of something. I took a 14-year-old kid with me fishing the other day, and he wants to grow up and be a charter captain of some sort. He doesn't know whether he wants to do inshore or offshore, but he is just completely eaten up with fishing. And his father just sold his boat not too long ago, so he's kind of boatless right now and struggling a little bit in his mind.
Shake him just a little bit, Richard? Do you just shake him a little bit?
Don't do it. Just kidding.
They have plans to get a new one, but they have plans to get a new boat. But anyway, we pulled up to the west end to jump in the water and wade. And as I was grabbing my anchor out, I always kind of throw all these little tips at this young man because he is paying attention to every word I say the entire day, and I know it's sinking in. And I pulled my anchor out and I said, Kyle, I want to tell you something. This thing I'm holding in my hand is one of the most important pieces of equipment that I have on my boat. And he said, why is that? Because you use it every day? And I said, no, sir, that is not it at all, because it's a piece of safety equipment. People are so, dependent on on power poles, trolling motors, and the whole 9 yards. And every time I pull up to the beach and get out of the boat, that anchor goes on the beach. You know what I mean? Or if I'm jumping out to wade somewhere, it goes on the beach. And I know when I put that anchor down, the boat's not going anywhere. And a lot of people forget about that. I know people who don't even carry an anchor in their boat. So
that's amazing.
I feel like that's something important maybe our listeners could pick up on. You never know when you're going to need it. You break down or something, you drift it into a rock jetty or something. You don't have a way to stop yourself. Toss the anchor out,
Right. It's often very much deeper than a power pole can anchor you down with.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, Richard, let's talk about these triple tail a little bit. As much as I hate to do it,
Joe's foaming at the mouth over there.
Yeah, let's hear it. What's going on with them?
Man, there's a bunch of them around. The same day that we caught the 28-inch trout, I think we put 12 on the boat that day and probably had 15 or 16 shots.
28 inches. I thought it was 27 and a half a minute ago. This thing's growing by the minute.
I actually shrunk it because I said 28 and a quarter. Okay.
Richard released the state record now.
That's right.
But yeah, there's a bunch of them around right now. And man, the name of my game for being successful at catching a lot of blackfish is covering ground. I put a lot of miles on the boat and burned a bunch of gas the other day, basically just looking for anything floating, so a lot of crab traps out there right now with shrimping season being closed in the bay. So there's crab traps all over the place. There's a lot of great tide lines all over the place. The tide line thing to me is the most fun because you find a tide line and I'll slow down to an idle, going 4 to 6 miles an hour. And I'll stand up on my leaning post and get as high up as I can. And usually driving with my foot. That'd be a good video, watching me drive the boat with my foot.
Captain Safety. Teaching the next generation about all these safety requirements in the areas driving with his foot.
Yeah, but you just kind of get the highest vantage point you can on the boat and just put your see-through glasses on and look for them, and it's a ton of fun. Most of the time when I kind of get on those tide lines, I like to throw a free line at the fish versus like a crab pot or something like that. I'll usually tie a cork on. They seem to be a little bit spookier when they're in that tide line and they don't really have a piece of structure that they're hanging on to, that they're nosed up to. Everybody has this idea that you want the biggest live shrimp that you can possibly put on the hook to throw at these blackfish, and I think completely opposite. I think I would rather have a more medium-sized shrimp than an extra large shrimp, because believe it or not, when they come up and inhale that shrimp in, they put so much force on that shrimp that I have them literally, they suck the shrimp off of the hook all of the time. You'll watch the whole thing happen. The fish will come up, inhale the shrimp, and you're like, oh man, okay, give them just a second, okay, reel it on in, and then there's nothing there. And using a more medium-sized shrimp has definitely added to putting more fish in the boat.
Do you prefer treble hooks or those circle hooks, or what's your hook of choice for the triple tail?
I usually the same hook that I use for speckled trout. Use a number 8 treble hook. If I and like I said, that's how I approach black fishing, is covering ground and kind of play more of a numbers game.
Yeah.
If I start blind fishing, like channel marker piling and ship channel buoys and all that stuff, I do switch over to a little bit bigger single hook, because you're probably going to catch a bigger fish that way.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's going to hang in there a lot better than my little bitty wire treble hook that I'm catching trout with. So,
yeah. All my experience with them has been that it mirrors what you're saying, and I don't know the biology that well. I don't know that anybody does really, but it seems like early in the year, late spring, we get an influx of these smaller triple tail, the fish that are barely legal, up to 8 pounds or so. And it seems like those fish hang up at the top. You're seeing them in the tide lines. You're seeing them literally with their head underneath a crab trap buoy. So one question I want to ask you about that, Richard, is when you're talking about covering ground, if you're running, say you're running a line of crab traps, the way I've always done it is we run the line of crab traps. If we saw the fish, we'd catch the fish. Are you stopping and fishing each of these pots and seeing if a fish is there, or you run until you see a fish?
No, I just run. I stay on plane till I see a fish. The trick to being successful with that, not spooking the fish and being able to see them, I do a couple of different things. I gauge my distance that I get off of the crab trap by my wake. I like to look back in my wake, and if my white water is going to wash the crab trap out, meaning where the wake is kind of cresting as it's peeling away from the boat, I never want that white water to get into the crab trap. So that's how far I stay off of it. And I'd probably say that's about maybe a boat length and a half for me. So about 35, 40 feet away from it. And the other thing too is I always, when I approach a line of crab traps, I look on both sides of the boat, like I'll line up how the direction I'm going to have to run. And I look to my left and I see how well I can see under the surface, and I look to my right and I see how well I'm going to be able to see on the surface. And then I just, I run the clearer side, because sometimes the glare, the way the glare is going to be, you're not going to be able to see them as well from one direction as you might the other.
Sure. That's just like cobia fishing on the beach. When you're cobia fishing on the beach, sun rises in the east. So you're going to put the sun at your back. So you're going to head west in the morning, and in the afternoon you're going to head east generally to try to keep the sun at your back, and that gives you the best vantage point.
99 times out of 100, that's exactly the same thing with this, with running these crab pot lines.
Man,
that's a great tip.
It's exciting. I love it. I love it when they start showing up.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. I feel like a heroin addict, you know what I mean, when they start to show up, you know what I mean? You got to go get your fix every day, you know what I mean? You got to go get it out of your system.
The tug is the drug.
Well, Richard, we're going to talk wade fishing a little bit in your inshore tip this week. This week's inshore tip is brought to us by the Alabama Marine Resources Division. Reminds all recreational anglers who land red snapper in Alabama that one vessel report is to be submitted through the Snapper Check program before fish are brought on shore, regardless of where the fish are caught. Anglers can report their harvest online on the official Outdoor Alabama app or on paper forms at select coastal public boat ramps. For more information about Snapper Check for the 2019 red snapper season, please visit outdooralabama.com. Richard, what you got for a tip, buddy?
So obviously I've been talking a lot about wade fishing the past several shows, and this week, that's one of my favorite things to do is to wade fish. And so anywho, doing that, I've seen a lot of anglers try to fish some of the same area that I'm wading, and you'll see some guys pull up and they'll fish for a little while and they won't catch anything, and then they'll ease on. And one thing that I really feel is I feel like a lot of folks out there don't understand why you're wade fishing, because you'll see some guys pull up to a beach, throw their anchor out, and they get out right next to the boat and start fishing. And the whole reason that I like to get in the water and wade is to get away from the boat. Most of the time, actually all the time when you're wade fishing, you have to have a hard bottom to be able to stand up, whether it's over a hard sand bottom or oyster shell bottom are the two main, I guess, bottom types that I'm fishing. Your boat makes so much noise. You have hull flap, from the wind, and the water's kind of hitting the side of the boat, and then displacement, as the boat's moving through the water, drifting, doing whatever, it's pushing water out, and then water's coming in back around you. And I feel like the fish can feel all that stuff and hear it. And so the whole idea is stealth, get away from the boat. And another thing too that I'll see people kind of maybe mess up on or can improve on would be, when you pull up to an area that you want to fish, you want to stay away from that area with the boat, So if you've got like a section of beach that you want to fish, I'm parking like 200 or 300 yards away from that area, putting the boat up on the beach, anchoring up, and then I usually walk it. When we get out of the boat with my customers, I tell them, get out of the boat, walk a minimum of 100 yards, and then start fishing. There's no reason to start fishing anywhere near the boat.
So I understand what you just said, but let's say a guy's going out blind and he doesn't know, let's just say he wants to go fish the west end of Dolphin Island, or he wants to go fish some of the Shell Islands up in Mississippi Sound, or maybe he's over in Little Lagoon and he's wanting to fish, do some wading over there. How do you prospect? How do you go out and determine? Do you look at a chart and say, that looks like good depths, I'm going to try this section of beach, and you get close enough to walk down there to it? Or do you stay a little bit away from the beach and look for bait? How would you do it if you were in an area where you were totally had no prior knowledge? Go in and say, this is the quarter mile of beach I'm going to wade this morning.
There's a couple of different things you look for. You want to see, definitely, I love areas that have bottom contour change. You know what I mean? Where you have there's a bunch of stuff like around Dolphin Island where you have like a bar and then it drops down into a trough, and then you have a bar where it comes up to like knee deep water, and then you get down into waist deep water, and the fish are usually going to be on either side of the bar, and if the tide's high enough, they'll be up on the bar sometimes, but most of the time they're going to be in those little troughs. So looking for areas like that, maybe while you're out another day fishing, just, keep your eyes peeled and look for things like that. Another thing, the next major thing is going to be bait. And that goes pretty much any kind of type of fishing that trout fishing, red fishing that I do. If I don't see mullet jumping or a bunch of mullet around, I have zero confidence that there's going to be any fish there. That does not, if I get to an area and start fishing, even though I might know that there has been a bunch of fish there, if I don't see any mullet jumping, I have zero confidence. It does not make me feel warm and fuzzy about being there. So a lot of it is bait. The other thing too to look for is slicks. Slicks means that there's fish feeding there. So if you see like a little series of slicks, same thing. Park a long way away from that and try to set yourself up. Another thing too that I do is take into account wind direction. We've had we got like a southeast wind that is
dug in real bad right now. It's going to blow southeast. It's been like that direction all week, and it's going to be that way through the rest of the week. Every wade I've made this week, I am parking the boat to the east of where I want to fish, and I'm walking west so that I've got the wind with me. You're not displacing as much water as you're walking, and you get a hell of a lot more distance casting with the wind and crosswind or against it and whatnot. Sometimes you don't have a choice but to kind of go straight into it sometimes, but I'm always trying to use that wind to my advantage instead of trying to fight it.
For sure.
Like it.
Yep.
Well, Richard, thanks for being on the show, man. I feel like I learned a lot this week.
I did.
Man, we
talked
some good stuff today, man. I hope some folks get out there and put that knowledge to use.
For sure. It's going to be a pretty weekend.
Well, buddy, we'll check back in with you soon.
Butch, you must know my man, Hugh. Do you know Hugh?
I do.
Hugh, damn right. Huh?
I know Hugh
About
very
the pretty
well.
weather.
You know it, son.
All right, Richard.
Yep. Thank y'all for having me, man. I'll talk to y'all next time.
Sounds good, Richard. Keep whacking them. Man, that whole entire section from old Captain Blood was pretty much an entire tip. I really learned a lot there.
Where are we going next?
We're going to head offshore and near shore. I know he's been doing a lot of fishing lately. We're going to head on down to Captain Kirk Tillman with the Ichthys. So what's going on, Captain Kirk? How you been doing, bud?
Oh, pretty good.
You guys caught the smash the grouper pretty good not too long ago. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, the last time I talked about how I went to the east and it hadn't been quite as productive, and I was just thinking about it. So we actually had some good bait, went over that way, and basically got a limit early and caught some nice camp, yellow edge. Had a really good day and got it done early.
That's awesome, man. I saw it. Those were some giant stud grouper. How deep were you guys fishing?
We started off in the 300s and worked on out to about 750, something like that. But we pretty much went and fished over toward out off Orange Beach a little bit in that gully that's really not that far off. Instead of going on out to the main ledge, we went and fished that gully and tried that for a little while.
Heard that. So last time we had you on, you were talking about, which I learned, I had always fished grouper over structure and things like that. You said you look for the mud bottoms and the mud flats. Is that the same thing over to the east? I know there's a lot more natural bottom and a lot more natural structure over there. What were you guys fishing?
Yeah, we was just mainly fishing up and down on either side of that canyon over there. There's a lot of big rocks and basically, like you said, there is more. I think there's actually more natural bottom structure over there. We're mainly just hitting a bunch of that over on that side.
Man, I know you guys have those electric reels that you use. Which ones do you use, Captain Kirk?
I just used the regular Tenecoms. They actually came down on the price, and they, Joseph down there or the Tackle This place, they both got good deals on them right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen some really good deals from Sprinkles Net Shop. That's Joseph Rodriguez, right?
Yep.
That's awesome, man. What's your whenever you're dropping down for grouper in that deep of water, what's your go-to setup as far as hooks and weights, and what does that look like?
A lot of times I'll use a 5-hook rig. I kind of slacked it back and just started using a 3-hook on a lot of them, but then
you just separate your weight.
Joseph actually sells them down there. Me and him, I've been doing this for a long time. He makes kind of the same rig that I use. So
sure.
Somebody could go down there and just buy one. They're productive. They work better than most of the stuff you buy other places. In my opinion, they work twice as good. But
sweet, you guys go check out Sprinkles Net Shop and get some of those deep drop rigs. I assume you use circle hooks.
Yeah,
not deep and probably 2 or 3 foot apart on your hooks, and then your leaders off of that are 16, 18 inches.
Something like that. I mean, if you go buy one somewhere, they got a little bitty old, like a 4-inch drop on them or something. Mine's usually longer than that. And
yeah, for sure. Long enough to get it out a little bit, but not long enough.
It just depends on basically what we're fishing. I probably got like 3 different ones, just depending on kind of what area we're in. Some of them's for some reason, some of them work better at different times, and sometimes we just put down a single sow rig, and that works good. Sometimes that's more effective, just with the 6 foot leader on it or something. And you'll generally sometimes catch a bigger one like that.
I think my favorite grouper rig is probably what they call, or what I call, I don't know if it's what it's called, a fish finder rig, where you use a 3-way swivel, you hook it to the main line, and you put your lead a little bit off of the one side of the swivel, and then probably a 3 or 4 foot leader with a circle hook off of the other side of the 3-way swivel. I like that one.
Yeah.
You ever use? Is that about what you use for that sow rig you're calling?
Yeah, except I just use a longer leader, like almost like you'd fish for amberjack or something, but not quite that long.
What about bait, man? Whenever you're going down 500 or 600 foot, you want something good on there. What's going to be your go-to bait for that kind of deal?
Well, see, like this last time, I think the bait makes a difference. I went down, the whole family, shrimps and stuff. I went down there and they usually give me some squid, and I got those big old squid. Like most people use sword fishing, and there's no better bait for deep dropping than those big old giant squid. I mean, they hit them. And,
awesome.
It's just,
there's not much that won't eat a big squid, really.
Yeah.
Big old smelly, slimy things. I know you've been doing some near shore, inshore deal. You guys been catching those bull reds? Is that the typical Dixie bar situation?
We have. I actually went yesterday. We didn't catch nothing.
Happens like that sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, I didn't. If I go offshore, you put it in the bank, but inshore, nah. We didn't catch any trout or redfish yesterday. Which we got there late, but we had a bunch of live squid, live shrimp and little croakers, and had all the right stuff. It's just a bad day as far as for me yesterday, as far as inshore.
Kurt, I want to step you back to the squid you were talking about. I've seen that. I've had that same experience myself. When it comes to using those big squid, though, are you hooking the whole squid on, or are you cutting that mantle into strips? How exactly are you?
Nah, we're just putting the whole squid on.
Really?
We're just hooking the whole squid on. But if for somebody else that didn't have access to get those squid like I do, it'd probably be expensive if you had to go buy them. I think Joseph's probably got some down there, or a few people here and there might have them. It'd be kind of expensive to fish with that if you didn't have free access to them like I do.
Right. Butch was asking about tackle. What kind of range of lead weight are you having to go? I mean, obviously it's going to depend on current.
I just use 5 pounds.
Just every time?
Yeah, just every time. And then if the tide's running too hard out there, then you're not going to be able to fish it anyway. I mean, I've tried fishing it before. If the tide's screaming out there, you might as well just give it up. I mean, sometimes the tide's running too hard to get down, and you can pull up way off the spot, and you might catch a few here or there in the really deep water. Now, if you get in a little bit closer, you can halfway fish a little bit. And something else is if you fishing out there and you get hung up in the wreck and you're deep dropping, 90% of the time you can get the weight out by just bouncing it. It'll be caught up in there, so you're not going to lose your rig. And you just keep on snatching it. Whoever's driving the boat needs to try to pull up, just straight over top of it. You just keep snatching it up. You'll feel it on whatever it's hung up in, but you need to just keep bouncing it and just don't give up on it. And it usually comes out. You get to save your rig because, like everybody knows, that lead's not cheap. Not only that, you to lose your lead and braid and everything else, but if you can usually bounce that stuff out if you give it a few tries.
Give it a little slack. You can feel that play, and then you can see where it's bouncing.
Yeah, and just keep snatching it, and it usually comes out.
All right.
That brings us to our hey cap question, right, Joe? That shallow water grouper comment.
Yeah, I don't remember if we've had Kurt answer a hey cap question yet, but guess what, Kurt? You're the man this week. The Fairhope rattle is going to Justin Miramon. Justin emailed us at alabama@bestfishingreport.com, and he says, I was wondering if you could pick the mind of one of the offshore captains about grouper fishing in less than 200 feet. So we talk a lot about, with you, Kurt, about fishing in deep, deep water. Justin's wanting to know about targeting them in less than 200 feet, specifically for scamps and gags. He says, for the guys who aren't set up for deep dropping in 600 feet of water, but would still like to add to their red snapper catch when they're offshore, Said, I fish exclusively the east side of the Mississippi River and the Gulf past Breton Sound from Louisiana. He said, and the grouper fishermen in this state are so tight-lipped. So what do you think, Kurt? He's wanting to get
it's just tough, and the reason I fish so far offshore is just to try to get away from the snapper. If I was trying to target a grouper in there and I had access to catch some live bait, if you can catch like a ruby red lips or it's just a grunt, basically, and butterfly him and put him down, I don't know why. The reason is that bait right there will produce more grouper that I think than anything I ever put down. And if I had to just pick one bait I was going to go to and try to fish shallower water and catch a big, I've caught more big gags off one of them than hands down than any other bait. I would try that and put it on like a 6 foot leader or something with just a regular barrel weight or just a like a 3-way swivel like you was talking about with the weight hanging down up under. Either way is fine. Just sometimes that when you if you're fishing with braid or something like that barrel weight has a tendency to chafe your line out. And if you get a fish like that, you let him eat the bait first of all, and then after he does, you need to keep him from getting you in the wreck, because they're phenomenal for hanging you up in a spot somewhere, because they will get you in there and cause you to break that line off. All the time I catch them with several hooks in their mouth, and it's just because they got got somebody to wreck.
Yeah, man. If I totally agree with you. If I was going to say how to supplement my snapper catch with that, I'd have, however big your boat is, you got 2 or 3 guys fishing, sow rigs a little bit up off the bottom, probably for your bigger snapper. And then, like you said, I would do a fish finder rig. Just stick one guy back in the corner and have him put on some small.
Or if you didn't have that, you could just butterfly or just cut a whole side off a bluefish or a big hardtail or something like that. Just send that big bait on bottom. You're either going to catch a big snapper, a grouper, or a shark.
Yeah.
Kurt, I want to key in on something you just said. When you're talking about letting that fish eat that bait, you talk about butterflying a ruby lips. Some people call them Tom Tate, whatever you want to call them.
Firemouth snapper is what I call them.
Firemouth snapper. Hey, man, they fillet just like a snapper. Anyway.
String them up.
So when you're using a bait like that, like a ruby lips has got a pretty big bony head. Mm-hmm. And when you go to hook that bait on, where do you like to hook it? Do you go up through the lips? Do you get it right at the top of the head?
What I do is I just I'll hook him through the lips. I pull the hook all the way through, and then I hook the hook actually in his back.
Yep. I like
so
that too.
I just lead the line through his lips. I just start out in the bottom, just hook the hook all the way through, just lead the line
and pull
up,
it through
and
the top.
I actually hook. Yeah, I'll just pull it through the top, and actually I hook him right in the back, right where he butterflies.
That way he can't get away from you. If he bites, he's going to have that hook regardless if it comes from the back or the front.
Let's talk about.
Yeah, the main thing is just not snatching it out of his mouth after he has it. I mean, it's just you just want to snatch it anyway when you feel him biting. It's like an amberjack. If you had some people on your boat, you got to let them eat it.
Absolutely.
You mentioned not getting wrecked. We've talked about that a pretty good bit on this show, but I just think it bears repeating because we see it every single time. It seems like I want your opinion. You've caught a lot more grouper than I have, but I always felt like I wanted to either catch him or break him off. Like I literally, for that first 30 feet, I didn't want any drag coming out of my reel. What do you do? What do you like? How do you like to set your reels up? I mean, I just kind of looked at it as either my line's going to break or I'm going to catch him, but he's not going to get me in the wreck.
I hate losing a fish to break it off.
It's just hard to justify it sometimes because you've got and I guess it depends on what you're fishing. If you're fishing next to a rig, I mean, you basically, you can't let them hardly have anything because they're going to get you in it. Now, if you're fishing some kind of natural bottom spot or something like that, I think you got a little bit more play. Basically, if you're down there fishing by a rig or something, outside of just taking off with it and pulling away from it, they're hard to get up by a rig. They really are. You can't hardly let them have anything.
I agree. I think you're right, Joe. That first 30 feet, you just dog it off, and I'm not one.
Yeah, once you get him up off the bottom, I mean,
then you can relax a little bit. I agree.
But right there off the get-go, if he gets you in there, hung up,
you got to do
every
some
once in a while
flexing
you get him out, but a lot of times he's backed up in somewhere or something. I don't know. I've seen them get a lot of people in there with the quickness and just really nothing you can do. But a lot of times I don't know they're hooked. That's the kind of the secret to it, is letting him eat it, and then after you feel him taking off with it, is just don't give him a chance to run in there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I think.
Well, you mentioned, Justin's, what he's really looking for is that less than 200 foot, grouper action. And I mean, I wouldn't want to, if somebody said, Joe, go catch me a pile of grouper in less than 200 feet, I'd be not up for that challenge.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things. It's just there's so many snappers. That's just it's a hard thing to do. I've got a few spots. We pick up a few scamps, and the sweet spot for gags probably 230, but I've caught them in 50 foot of water. So if they're around.
If Justin is wanting to do this, let's say he's got his snappers and he's wanting to stay on the water and go prospect, go look for specifically grouper. Is there any particular type of structure you feel like you catch more grouper on? Really big spots like big public reefs or big public, sunken ships or rigs? Is there anything?
Yeah, I would actually probably try some of those bigger places. Some of them that's had, some of the snapper just kind of taken off of them or whatever, and just put that bigger piece of bait down there and see what happens. Really, I think you'd be better off to fish that, in my opinion. Or there is some coal bottom that's 130 foot and stuff like that in some areas out there, and they generally tend to hold a few more grouper, I think. But any of that stuff that a lot of people fish, I think is probably a good spot maybe to catch some. I think that the snapper's kind of a little bit more aggressive fish, and that's why you don't catch. I think the grouper's still there, you just don't catch them as often because the snapper's eating everything.
Yeah, they're just sitting down there on the bottom and they can't get nothing because the snapper eat it up before they get there. I agree with that.
Yeah,
that's a great report. We appreciate you being on this week. And if people want to get up with you to book a charter, how do they look you up?
Give me a shout or look me up on Facebook, it's Captain Kurt Charters, or I'm on Instagram, or call me at 251-288-1003.
Awesome, bub. We look forward to it, and look forward to having you on next time. Have a good evening. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, sir.
Man, Joe, that is a fantastic Alabama saltwater fishing report. I learned a ton today. Those guys are just wealths of knowledge, man. Before we get into the what did you learn today, this week's What Did You Learn is brought to us by the 6th annual Flora Bama Fishing Rodeo, the funnest fishing tournament on the Gulf Coast, May 31st through June 2nd. Over 30 categories of fish from blue crab to speckled trout to red snapper, swordfish, and more. Low entry fee and awesome prizes. Weigh-ins are at Flora Bama Old River Grill, so come join the party. Visit our sponsor area, listen to live music, eat, and have fun. More info and tickets at FloraBamaFishingRodeo.com. And come say hi to us. Me too.
I'm excited for that. I'm going to take you down. Blue crab. I'm owning blue crab.
I don't know much about catching blue crabs. I like to eat them, though.
I'm telling you, I already called him out. Isbell, you want some of this? Just bring it, brother.
Ooh, it's tough. Them words, them's fighting words. Well, what'd you learn this week, man?
Well, I learned a lot, but I think what really was kind of the theme of the show, and talking to everybody, was to slow down and think about what you're doing a little bit. You talk to Scott Kennedy, when you hear something like, okay, you got to be there at the crack of daylight and we're catching fish on topwater, you just kind of run out and you think, okay, let's go. Get there early and throw topwaters. But then he's saying, okay, but when I get to that flat, I'm building up speed and I'm coasting into that area. I'm not slapping the water with my paddle. I'm not making a bunch of noise, displacing a bunch of water in there when I'm making my first cast. And that, like we've talked about a lot on here, couple of fish can be the difference between what you call a good day and a bad day. So you talk to Richard Rutland, that guy, he's breaking down wade fishing like nothing I've ever heard.
Bottom tight.
Looking for those troughs, thinking about wind direction, thinking about everything, bait, how he approaches where he's going to fish. He's not just running down there and saying, that spot looks good. Let's
jumping
get out and walk and fish, So, and then you talk to Kurt, and we talk about trying to catch a grouper inside of 200 feet of water. Well, if you're going to catch your snapper, I'd be thinking about how am I going to catch my grouper. Don't worry about the snapper. In fact, you could probably not even fish for snapper, and you're going to catch your snapper.
I would think so.
So I would, he's saying focus on those bigger spots. Spend the time to get the bait that he feels like he catches more grouper on than others. So really, and then I like what Ron Davis said. When you get to that boat launch is not the time to be running through your checklist. Spend a little bit of time before you get in. You even crank up your truck.
Yeah, even the night before, man.
Yeah, have a little list on your phone that you go through.
I'm a big checklist guy.
Double check, because axles need greasing, tires need inflating,
trailer lights,
boat plugs, batteries charged, making sure switches are on. There's a lot that goes into it. Make sure you got the key for the lock on your trailer ball.
Lanyard,
everything. Because you get to that boat launch, you're in a hurry then because you got a line of people behind you.
Then you're panicking.
Yeah, and they're looking at you like you're a rookie, and you're gonna get in a hurry and forget something.
Yeah,
and you might have got your boat in the water 10 minutes faster, but if you're bailing water out of it 15 minutes later, you're
calling CTO,
right? Or calling Ron.
Ron.
What do you think? What you learn, man?
I like all of that, man. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from Richard about the deep water rig, slip cork, and using that sheep head split shot rig. I learned a lot about that. But I'm a checklist guy, man. I'm gonna keep on going with what you're saying. Whenever you and I worked on charter boats and worked offshore, and I know that Skipper and them still do it every time we go anywhere. You got a checklist. Make sure you got as basic as possible. You got your leader material, you got your hooks, you got your gaff, you got your, with a smaller boat, you got your plug, you got your extra oil, you got, a 5-gallon can of gas. It's not going to hurt anything. Just have a checklist, man. Get your ducks in a row before you're.
You can have a rough day just from forgetting your sunscreen. You know what I mean?
That's a fact. Hey, the other day, actually twice now that you and I went fishing, I forgot the net both times.
Twice. So it's not on your checklist, apparently.
I don't have a checklist for my boat. That's my Sunset Cruise boat.
I was going to say, it must be you must be so used to sunset cruising. Hey, you might need a net. Your hat might blow off your head or something.
That's true. You never know.
All right, Butch, wrap this puppy up.
All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up this week. Another great Alabama saltwater fishing report. You guys subscribe, rate, and review. If you guys haven't yet, man, you guys go to iTunes. If you listen to us on iTunes, or if you don't listen to us on iTunes, those reviews are very important. Go over there and hit that 5-star rating and leave us a little comment. iTunes like that. It helps our rankings and in turn helps keep bringing you the show for free. Rate and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you'd like us to email you the podcast each week, just head over to greatdaysoutdoors.com/ASFR and we'll send you the new show each week. You guys keep whacking them. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report has been brought to you by Geico. Call Ron Davis, Geico agent at 251-445-0053 or visit him online at geico.com/mobile-al.
And also Whistling Waters Kayak and Charters. You can check us out at whistlingwaters.com or shoot us a phone call at 251-408-2604.
And also KillerDock. Are you suffering from dock dysfunction? Check out a full line of dock enhancement at KillerDock.com. That's KillerDock.com. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report was brought to you by me, Joe Baya, and National Land Realty. If I can help you in any way with the purchase or sale of land in Alabama or Florida, whether it's timberland, farmland, recreational land like hunting land, or even agricultural land or ranch land like horse farm, drop me a message at jbaya@nationalland.com. That's JBAYA@nationalland.com.
This is Captain Richard Rutland, and this report is brought to you by Cold Blooded Fishing. You can find us at www.coldbloodedfishing.com.
This week's Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Angelo DiPaola, the Coastal Connection with EXP Realty, your boating and beach property specialist. Check me out on Facebook at Angelo DiPaola Realtor, the Coastal Connection, or call me direct at 850-287-3440.